Hi guys, for today's video I'm going to show you the basics of guide signs. First things, we have to make sure we're in the right file. This is a GuideSIGN worksheet file. It's under the sign in and marking discipline. And before we start doing any work, we have to load GuideSIGN. GuideSIGN is a third-party application, doesn't come with open roads. And there are multiple ways to do that. If you have the latest version of ORD, I think it's 10.09, they already placed these buttons on the ribbon under your home, under your drawing workspace. They have auto turn and guide signs. If you don't see the buttons, you have to load it by hand. You can do so by loading an MDL application. You can type in your search bar MDL, and it tells you where to find the button. It's on the drawing utilities. It's right here. And from here, you will go to your Transoft folder, which can be found under Programs Files, Transoft Solutions. You can load up your auto turn or guide sign using one of these icons. I forgot which one it is, but I already have it open. I already have it loaded, so it can be found under your drawing workspace. There's a new ribbon now called GuideSIGN Design. You work from left to right, so your program files, your program settings are here. It tells you, dimension styles that you're using. It tells you the units and background design, etc., etc. There are 4 steps when making a sign in GuideSIGN, and the first one is creating the sign itself. Everything in GuideSIGN works. Everything is defined by the panel style. Each panel tells GuideSIGN what text to use, their sizes, their font style, their space in the margins, what type of arrows or shields. So the sign panel is the first thing you place because that drives everything else. You can do that multiple ways. If you click here, panel styles, there are many panel styles that you can pick from Guide. This one says CON conventional. These are the stuff that you see on the streets. If you scroll down, these are the stuff you see on the highways and the freeways, etc., etc. And this panel, you will create them, and you would add text, and you will add arrows, and they define, how everything will look. But if you have something simple, something basic like street signs, before you go to the panel styles, I like to go here to the templates because they give you a lot of templates already, and all you have to do is just replace the text. There are street signs. There are, things that you see every day. Like this is one of the super popular. For today's demo, let's use a street sign, something like this. It gives you this little wizard you can customize and change. For example, let's change the street name to Mordor. I don't know. You can pick the street type, plain, course, pass. Let's make this way. And you can see that it tells you the dimension already. And down here, it gives some information like this is an 18-inch panel. The fonts, are 8-inch capitalized and, etc., etc. Once you press OK, you can place it anywhere. Notice that it automatically gives you some dimensions. This is because I have it under my program setting, the auto place dimensions. You can take it out if you want. I would like to see it already, just so I know if my dimensions will work with the scale. More on that in a moment. That was step 1. The next step is to place the dimensions. It already does it automatically. Step 2 done. Step 3 is to place a sheet. This is the sheet that you give your contractor so they can make the sign. They don't have a warehouse full of motorway signs, right? So this sign has to be made from scratch. Let's skip from the panel area. Let's skip all the way down here to the sheets and reports. Let's place a sheet first. Click on the button, click on the panel, and then it tells you what type of style of reports you want to place. I live in Florida and we use a lot of FDOT stuff. So let's place this one on this FDOT 4-pane sheet. I'm going to put 4 signs in one sheet because street signs are very common. So you have more than one of them. This is a pretty common practice. The plot scale, let's leave it. I know this is wrong, but let's leave it at 1 to 50, which is what you're used to seeing in your in your sheets, right? Press OK. Notice that it looks extremely small. This is when I tell you that the scales, the plot scales here in GuideSIGN are a little different, and you have to, there's a lot of trial and error. I had to play around with it. Let's delete this border because this is way too big for the sign. Let's delete the dimensions too. And let me see what these dimensions are scaled to. Let's go here to place dimensions. We see now here, view and edit settings. The default dimension settings I have is 1 to 10, right? So if I click on it, perfect. You see that it tells you the size of the panel, the size of the fonts, the font style, which is the D series. And this is a font for the small ones. And now let's place a border that more or less matches this. All right, let's go to place a sheet again. We're gonna pick this one, FDOT for paint, but instead of putting the 51, let's put 10. Let's see if that matches. It might be too small. Yeah, it is too small. So even though our dimensions are in scale 10, we're gonna have to change this border to something a little bigger. Let's try with scale 15. Let's do 15. There you go, much better. Okay, so placing the sheet is step number 3. Step number 4 and final step is just place a report. Because right now, all these cells are empty. And this is what you send to the contractor to make it. So click on place report, click on the panel, and then you're gonna see a similar window pop up. But instead of showing the border, now it's gonna show the information that goes inside this border. So in here, you will pick exactly the same thing that you picked before. Otherwise, these little fonts, all these little numbers are not gonna land inside these boxes. For example, like if you pick this one, they will land somewhere up here. Because what it does, it reads the center of the panel, and directly to the left and below, it's gonna fill that automatically like this. So this is assuming the panel is right here. I hope that makes sense. I think once you see it, you'll understand. We picked a 4-pane report, so we're gonna pick the 4-pane report. Even though we're only doing one, this is gonna land perfectly in this window. Let's match the plot scale that we picked for our border, which is 15. So that way our information lands exactly where it's supposed to be. Otherwise, it would have landed, huge text somewhere over here. This is the panel's information. Now let's update something. Let's change some of this information over here. Let's go here to update panel. Click on the panel again. And let's change this from, instead of D3 whatever, let's put the name that is going to show in our plans, in our signing and marking plans. Normally something like SP1, and then SP2, SP3, like sign panel 1. You're probably going to have 2 of this, like front and back. Station, you will put the station that you have in your plans. I'm just making up something here. 0000. And this is going to be a ground mounted panel. And these are the sizes. This panel came out to be 63 by 18. And press OK. And it will update the information up here. And there it is. Now let's make something a little bigger. I want to show you something else. Now let's say that you don't have something standard, something simple like this that you can pick from a template. Let's say you wanted to create your own panel. You go to panel styles and you pick the closest thing that you're going to use. For example, let's do something, I don't know, something for the highways, guide, expressway overhead. It tells you, what did they use for, what is it used for, and then you can view. And notice what I was saying before, that the panel defines everything else. This is the size of the panels, 120 by 72, but they're not locked. So that means that depending on what you put inside the panel, these dimensions can change, and they will change. You will see it. And it tells you what the borders are, the margins. If you place a text, they're not going to be like 8 or 6 like the other one. This one is going to be 16. And they're going to be like EM. That's a font style, modify. The hard part about doing GuideSIGN, it's not placing the panels in the computer, it's just finding out the information that you need. And for that, you will go to the MUTCD and you follow, their standards and all the supplements. I will leave a link in the description below. And follow, or if you're doing something for a city, special city, not a state road, they have their own standards. Like they might have it, the sign's blue, for example, or with a square border, or they might have a logo on the side. But for our demo, let's pick something pretty standard, pretty common. So we set this panel style, guide, expressway overhead, and now let's just place panel. Let's jump over to the right. Here we can fill out information. Let's make this SP2. Let's leave it at 1. Stationing, let's make it whatever, 200 plus 00. This one's going to be overhead, and this is the size that it comes with, but it is unlocked, and let's leave it unlocked. I will show you something, right? Notice that this panel is huge, so it won't be able to fit in this sheet size. This panel will go in its own separate sheet. Let's place it somewhere over here. Now let's place some text. We'll go here. Let's keep moving right. Place highway text. I'll click inside the panel. Let's make this, I don't know, Moria. And press OK. You can change the text height and the spacing if you're feeling like a maverick. Don't do it unless you know what you're doing. But for this demo, let's leave everything stock. There are many ways to place the object, place the text. You can snap it to another object, which we don't have anything right now, so it's floating in the air, to the panel, to the outside of the panel, to a point. If we have another object, you can do one point, center point of this one to the center point of the other one, or to the panel's edges. My favorite. This is they added this recently, and you can decide manually here how far away from the edge, right? But for the first time, I usually go with margins, because the panel already knows what type of margins it wants. So for this case, all the margins are 16. And according to the MUTCD, I believe that the margins have to be at least the size of the biggest font. So, and we figure out that we already know that this font is going to be 16 inches high. So there's going to be a 16 inches margin all around. Let's place this on the top right area. And notice that it's stopping already where it's supposed to be, right? It doesn't let me go anymore to the left or anymore above. So let's place it over here. And notice that the panel shrunk. It centered the text. It is 102 now by 54. That happens because the panel width and height are not locked in place. So it will become it will change dynamically as we work on it. Now let's place a shield somewhere down here just for fun. This one, let's change this to nice. Let's align it now to the object, which is the text, somewhere in the middle here. And now, why not? Let's place an arrow somewhere down here. This one. Let's rotate it 180 degrees. We can change the length of the arrows too by doing a manual override. Let's put it somewhere. Let's align it to margins. No, let's align it to this object right here, next to the object and below. So right here. So notice how everything already adjusts and shrinks, and you will modify this. You will center the text, up to you. What I want to show you now is notice the dimensions are placed automatically because of my settings, but they're too small because it's using, scale 10, which is what I have as my default program because I normally work in small signs. So it's thinking, hey, this is going to be in scale 10. Obviously, it's not going to be in scale 10. It's probably going to be like a scale 40 or 50. So let's get rid of these dimensions and let's put something more that fits our panel. Let's place dimension. This will be step 2. Let's click here, view and edit settings. Instead of 10, let's do something like 40. Oh, if you don't want to keep changing this back and forth every time, you can click here, save as program settings default. Let's make this 40 and click on the panel now. And that is much better. Yeah, 100% much better. So now let's add the panel sheet. Place sheet, click on the panel again. For this one, I'm only going to make 2. So let's let's use a different drawing sheet. But let's not put scale 15. This is going to be too small. Let's put scale 40. Let's Let's match the dimensions. Almost. It's a little tight. It's probably going to be better if we do scale 50. So again, don't worry about what you know about scales. The scales over here are a little different. It's not the regular printing scales that you're used to seeing. Let's make this 50 and it should be fine. Much better. It's nice and centered. Everything is legible. And the last thing we need to do is just add the report, which is the button right next to it. Press report, click on the panel again. It's going to read everything inside the panel. Let's change this to FDOD2 pane report just to match our sheet. And let's leave it at 50, which is what we did before. And look at that. SP2. And it's done. Now, to make a sign, you don't have to bring a panel every time. You don't have to do this whole rigmarole that I just did. If it's pretty similar, like you see a lot of this with guide signs for street names, you can just copy and paste it. Let's just copy and paste this one here. As long as the center of this panel lands in the center of this, you should be fine. Everything should align in the proper way. So let's just copy this. Oh, by the way, you can take out this little fly pop-up menu by just pressing space. And this is my copy. I just pick a point, any point, and just make sure you land in the same point on the other one. Now let's change the text from Moria to something else. This button here next to the text, highway text, there's a edit highway text. Click on the text. Let's change this to Shire. Why not? Oh, and of course, it automatically populated with the wrong dimensions. So let's delete it and bring it new again. Place dimensions. Let's change this to 40. This is what we picked before. Click on the panel. And now let's place a report. Same thing, FDOT2 is the panel is right here, so it's gonna shoot everything to the left and below. So to the left and below right here. Make it 50 just to match the panel. And here it is. It says Shire. Notice it automatically updates. It doesn't update the name of the panel. You have to go back and do it yourself. So update panel, click over here. Let's make this a 3, and this is probably in whatever. And now it should update. There we go. Oh, sometimes this happens. It might be a good idea to auto-place dimensions. Let's get rid of that. Let's place the dimensions again. There we go. So these are the basics of GuideSIGN. There are many other things that you can do with it. You can make your own arrows. You can do dividers. You can align objects, and after you place something, you can move it around. One of the most powerful tools is that you can create a template from a sign. Let's say that you're working for a city that they don't use green signs, and they use blue signs, right? And you want to save that template for the future, right? Or they don't use this type of font. Like they don't like 8, they like 12 always, no matter what, or 9, something ridiculous. So after you make a panel and you customize, you can create a template for that panel, and it stays, right? It stays saved in your system, and you will see that they have this little hammer next to it. These are like customized panels that I have done. So you have to create one every time. Once you're done setting up all your files, you can either print them directly from here. These red borders will print it will detect this as a title block. You can just bring this as a reference in the provided special details sheet that comes with the file once you create it. Just bring it as a reference and scale it accordingly. And make sure sometimes if you lose your text, make sure the annotation settings are off. Otherwise, it will scale the text. It gets kind of weird. If any of this was helpful to you, feel free to click on the thumbs up button. It helps the channel and people will discover it more. And consider subscribing so you can get more of these videos every now and then. Thank you for watching.